This is Douglas Coupland in the CJSW Newscopter, where it's always 90.9 FM here in Calgary.
First, let's have our regular feature on Audible Mutterings, Local Mutterings, where we mention the literary events that are happening around the city over the next little while. On Tuesday, February 28th, Celebrating Women, 8:30 at the Republic. Readers will be Theresa Smalec, Jacqueline Turner, Nicole Markotic, Susan Holbrook, and there will also be bands and performance artists as well. That's Celebrating Women, 8:30 at the Republic, Tuesday, February 28th.
Get up, woman. You're 31 years old today, even if you are lying in bed in a room that still suffers traces of your childhood. In 20 minutes, Vic and Tony will have to be driven across town to school, and Mother may or may not refrain from saying, if they transferred schools, they could walk. I can't really tell her the truth, that I don't transfer them because once a week, on Roxanne's day off, I can go to her from dropping the boys without having to explain anything to anyone.
I normally don't know how to start book reviews. With Nicole Markotic's first book of poetry, Connect the Dots, this start was easy. Wow. I first met Nicole at the launch of her first chapbook, Tracking the Game. A reworked version of this poem appears in this book. Markotic's reading that night introduced me to a whole new set of parameters for approaching poetry, vaguely familiar, but oh so different.
Filling stations trying to reclaim the idea of the broadside as a type of poster text. Ganglia Press and Blue Ointment Press and a number of other Canadian small presses have worked with the tabloid format very successfully, I think, and I think it's a really interesting way to go with poetry and short fiction without having it bound in a book or in a magazine. And the series is open for anyone who wishes to submit something. We're hoping to attract a really wide range of writers and styles, and also with our resident designer, most assuredly they'll be very aesthetically pleasing.
Filling Station Magazine presents 4 Sheets to the Wind, Friday, February 24th at the Night Gallery. A subscription drive, a broadside launch, an excuse to party. No fewer than 7 readers, and featuring Zoo Story, Soggy Crust, and Maud. 4 Sheets to the Wind, this Friday at the Night Gallery, 1209B, 1st Street Southwest.
Good afternoon, it's Theresa Smalec on Audible Mutterings, and I'm interviewing Keri Hulme, who is in town this week thanks to the Mark and Flanagan Visiting Writers Fund. Keri Hulme is probably most famous for her novel The Bone People, which won the Booker McConnell Prize in 1985. However, she's also a writer and painter and has published short stories in a wide variety of magazines and anthologies, as well as publishing books of poetry. Hulme lives at Okarito, is it?
Okarito, indeed.
On the west coast of New Zealand, and is currently at work on a new novel, which she read from last night at Art is Vital in the Eau Claire Mall. Keri, I'm wondering if you'd like to begin by talking about your sense of being haunted by certain stories and characters. You opened a reading last week by saying that characters like Simon, Joe, Carowin, and Hannah had haunted you for over a decade before you finally published them in Bone People, and thus released them to go haunt others. Can you maybe talk about the kinds of things that ghosted you and kept you at work on constructing their lives?
That's an intriguingly layered kind of a question. There's 2 aspects. One, you can deliberately cultivate a haunting, as it were. You can get a character who really interests you and brew them. But far and away for me, the most involving characters are those who appear out of nowhere and demand a story to be written about them.
You have people who don't have lives, which is kind of a really late 20th century idea. I mean, you couldn't say to someone in the 70s, you know, so-and-so doesn't have a life. I think I say this in the book. They go like, what are you talking about? So these people who work at Microsoft are really on the vanguard of not having a lifeness. All the late 20th century factors that contribute to a person not having a life are just in their full-fledged inflection at Microsoft. And so in a way, they're like the living laboratory of life as it will be lived for everyone else 30 years from now or 20 years from now. And so you have these characters, Dan and Carla, who realize, oh man, we are so screwed up. We have no life whatsoever. How are we going to get one? Because we're alive and we're sensate, we must find something. And so the book is partly about how they find something to rectify the late 20th century non-life having condition.
Here's a riddle. What's better than hopscotch, double dutch, high jump, long jump, triple jump, puddle jumping, leapfrog, and leaping tall buildings in a single bound? Here's a head start. On your mark, get set, and leap into leap year. Thursday, February 29th, 7:30 p.m. at the Art Ranch, 524 17th Avenue Southwest, as Filling Station and CJSW present the back issue Blowout, a quantum leap for Alberta's literary magazines in celebration of Freedom to Read Week. Take a flying leap with readings by Richard Harrison, Robert Hillies, Anne Burke, and Alan Serafino, a cash bar, acid jazz, and back issues of Dandelion, Blue Buffalo, Prairie Journal, Absinthe, and Filling Station for cheap, cheap. You can blow through the door. It's free as the wind.
We have readings that we're going to be talking about tonight.
There's been a whole spate of readings in the last 2 or 3 months. These are in no particular order. Let's start off talking about Rohinton Mystery, Shane.
Oh, what a voice. It's like something you could fall into. It's like a cat's tongue. That's what it is.
Well, I have a soft spot in my heart for Rohinton Mystery. You know about that, don't
Yeah,
you?
but
we won't talk about that.
Robert Hillis, our Calgary Governor General's Award winner for English poetry last year, has been doing the reading circuit over the past little while as well.
yeah, he's reading from his new book, actually, Near Morning. It's a great new book. He explores a lot more of his death theme that he did in Candles from a Small Room. But and actually his readings are getting a lot more interesting. He's been doing some voice lessons and stuff like that, and his
strengthening a bit.
Yeah, the reading he did for us at where was it? The Crazy Horse.
the
It was
Crazy Horse
excellent. I wish we would have recorded it.
He'll get to meet a really, really cool sort of poet. His name's Ian Hamilton Finlay, and he has a garden in Scotland.
A garden.
Yeah, and he does concrete poetry. It's amazing. It's
Out of his garden.
Fred Waugh, a teacher here at the university,
Yeah.
a professor, has visited Ian and has brought back pictures.
Wow.
And he writes poetry in cement and does all these sculpture sort of things. And he's claiming that his garden is a temple to Apollo, so he doesn't have to pay Scottish taxes.
Is this the first book you've read in the new year?
No.
Oh.
First book I did read over midnight in order to remain literate from 1995 until 1996.
Good for you.
Because if you're not reading during the midnight passing, you forget.
I've noticed an apocalyptic feeling to the show tonight. What was with that woman screaming there on that?
That's the Amanda Gallas and Leonard Cohen. That's Mingus.
Really?
That's Charles Mingus.
That was totally weird.
Yeah, very. It's one of the neatest CDs around. Go get it. Weird Nightmares, Meditations on Mingus, all kinds of incredible talent.
Does that count as spoken word?
Absolutely, Leonard Cohen.
I don't get it.
That's all I have to say.
I totally don't get it.
Let's do some local mutterings, Cybele.
I still don't get it.
One should always be drunk. That's the great thing, the only question. Not to feel the horrible burden of time weighing on your shoulders and bowing you to the earth. You should be drunk without respite. Drunk with what? With wine, with poetry, or with virtue, as you please, but get drunk. And if sometimes you should happen to awake on the stairs of a palace, on the green grass of a ditch, in the dreary solitude of your own room, and find that your drunkenness is ebbing or has vanished, ask the wind and the wave, ask star, bird, or clock, ask everything that flies, everything that moans, everything that flows, everything that sings, everything that speaks, ask them the time, and the wind, the wave, the star, the bird, and the clock will all reply, "It is time to get drunk." If you are not to be the martyred slaves of time, be perpetually drunk with wine, with poetry, or with virtue, as you please.